Author of groundbreaking books, including The War on the West, The Madness of Crowds, and The Strange Death of Europe. Douglas Murray, it's the Strange Death of Europe I want to speak to you about. But first, I need your take on what we saw today outside the New York courtroom where Donald Trump's trial is being conducted. We had Robert De Niro make an appearance with this important message.
I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave.
Man, I thought Robert Delusional is supposed to be an actor, a big-time actor. And look at him. He's reading from a freaking script. He's got his little crib notes or whatever in front of him, reading off of them. I mean, we know that he's got Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. Does he really need to be reading off of a piece of paper to espouse his anger, his thoughts? And you know what? Like I said before, who actually gives a shit seriously as to what Robert Delusional has to say? Stay in your lane, do your acting, and that's pretty much all we want you to do, Robert Delusional. That's pretty much all we ask of you, right? We don't need you coming in and giving your views. It would be something you studied, some of the subjects that you're talking about, some of the policies and whatever. But just hating on a guy, saying you want to beat him up, saying you want to punch him in the face, swearing at him and making all these, statements that are all lies, gaslighting everybody. Nobody's listening, Robert. Nobody's listening. And it's a good thing that you're at the end of your career, because if this was like years before, I'm telling you what, you'd be going down. Absolutely. Nobody would be going to see your movies because you'd be going, oh, it's that guy who keeps bashing us. Unbelievable. Anyways, folks, you're watching the Dr. Nasser Shake Show. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Let's get back to more of Robert Delusional and Douglas Murray. Let's do that right now.
That he will never leave.
There you have it. Elections, democracy, it's all over if Trump wins. It got even worse than that, Douglas. I'll be featuring some of the lunacy later in the program. But what did you make of that? And will it have any impact on the voting public?
The only impact that Robert De Niro and other celebrities have when they do this kind of thing is to encourage more voters to silently vote for Trump. First of all, I mean, what is somebody like De Niro thinking of? Who does he think he is? What does he think his role is in society? I mean, he's an actor, and I think a very good one, which is one of the reasons I really dislike it when I see an actor like him do this, because afterwards you can't help but watch him in a role and then think, oh, there's that guy who's a rather tedious political bore. But it is tedious and it is boring. He has no special insights. And so why is he standing in front of a bank of microphones offering his insights about Trump? I've always thought that this celebrity, endorsement, celebrity commenting thing backfires on the people that they support. I think most ordinary Americans, like most ordinary Australians and Brits, we don't really like to be talked at by, mega celebrities who imagine they've got insights they just don't have.
You're so right. I preferred it when they just threatened to leave the country if someone got elected, and yes, they never actually follow through with that either. Now, your good friend and courageous women's rights activist Ayaan Hirsi Ali was on the Trigonometry podcast this week, and she noted that within 3 decades, she's seen Europe start to resemble the Islamist country she fled.
many neighborhoods resemble where I left. And that just happened within 3 decades. And so you can see when I talk about transformation that it doesn't take that long. And so there were really some very serious scholars. They were all telling us back in the day that if this demographic developments continue and we don't do anything about assimilation, there is going to be this flip in 2040, 2050. That's not too far away.
It's not too far away, Douglas, which begs the question, is it too late now to stop this flip, this transformation, this strange death of Europe as we know it?
I mean, I would say it's extremely difficult to know because predictions are always tough, rough on people. All you can do is base them on the evidence in front of your eyes. And I think that what Ayan said there is completely true and indeed evident. It's evident because if a population grows that is effectively in large part unassimilated, or at least has views that the rest of the country finds abhorrent or just distasteful, if that particular demographic grows and grows and grows, of course they're going to have more and more impact, more and more presence. They'll be felt more and more in the country. When Ayan first arrived in the Netherlands as an asylum seeker, she was one of the protégés, among other things, of the politician Frits Bolkestein. And he was warning about this in the 1990s. And, others of us warned about it. And not only did governments not listen, they actually made the situation worse. I mean, look at the UK. In the UK, we have a Conservative government about to leave office after 14 years, got into office saying that immigration would become tens of thousands of people a year rather than hundreds of thousands, roughly back to 1990s immigration. And the Conservatives are going to leave office with net migration in the UK at almost 1 million a year. Why did these people not listen? Why did they never listen? Why did they never act on all of the warnings after warnings that people gave? So you ask, is it going to happen? Yes, if we continue like this. And if we continue in this situation where the political class both accelerates immigration massively, totally fails at integration. I mean, good luck with that old idea. And then tells the general public, as they do, that it's all a conspiracy theory that the immigration is happening at this pace. And it's all a great replacement conspiracy theory. So what you see before your eyes is a conspiracy theory. It'll happen if it goes on like that, for sure.
And we have so many in the West who have no regard for the West. They don't want to assimilate. They're not called on to assimilate. They have no respect for Western civilization and the values we have. And that was apparent in the streets of London last week as supporters of the Iranian regime clashed with anti-regime protesters. Douglas, the clash happened outside a venue where they were holding an event to mark the death of Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president who died in a helicopter crash. Why is anyone who supports the brutal Islamist Iranian regime living in the UK? That to me is incredible. There are so many in the Middle East who would give their right arm to have the freedoms that we enjoy. And yet we have people accepted in as migrants, as residents, as citizens who obviously do not embrace Western values.
Yes, I mean, it's not just people like the thugs there the other night. As I think I've told you before, Rita, the former deputy prime minister of Iran, Mohajerani, lives in Leafy Harrow in London. Why have we got regime goons in the UK? Why have we got these people in the country? And again, it goes back to the previous point, Rita. This is what happens if government after government completely loses control of migration and doesn't do anything about it. I think that these people, the people who are, mourning Raisi, mourning the butcher of Tehran, I don't think they should be in Britain. I don't think they should be there. I don't think there's any reason why the average British person needs to live alongside somebody who's mourning an Islamist goon and monster, and let alone breaking out fights in protest that anyone disliking the. I mean, it's preposterous. I've said for years, if you import the world's people, if you import all the world's people, you import all of the world's problems. And once again, we see that.
Absolutely.
Problems in the Middle East now play out on the streets of London as they do on the streets of Sydney and New York and everywhere else.
Folks, Douglas is so right. You import the people of the world. Not only are you importing everything about them, but you're also importing the problems. You're importing, obviously, some of the good, but you're importing a majority of the bad, especially when there's no assimilation that's being a part of allowing them to enter into your country. And with these smaller countries that you have in Europe and in Western Europe, where the majority population, let's just face it, is white, Caucasian, to import millions upon millions of people at a rate where it's hard to assimilate, these are the problems that you're going to bring in to your society. You're going to bring in people that have absolutely nothing in common with you at all, history-wise, culture-wise, governmental-wise, family value, none of that. It's not happening. And you see that here you have you have these clashes between those people pro-Iranians that are basically upset because the anti-Iranian people there were celebrating the death of a thug and a goon of the Iranian militia, the Iranian military. This person in Iran is responsible for the deaths, the torture of thousands upon thousands of Iranians. But you have people in Britain who are pro-Iranian government that love this butcher, loved what he did. And as you saw in that small clip, clashes were occurring on the streets of London of pro-Iranian versus anti-Iranian forces. And as Douglas says, these people have no business whatsoever being in England. All they're there for is to cause agitation, to try to overthrow whatever's in the United Kingdom. Bit by bit, piece by piece, that's what their intention is to do, slowly but surely. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our links above and below. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.